Mr. X with the Xtreme Channel here with a brand new segment. Not only is it a brand new segment, but it is going to be an ongoing segment. We're going to give you a little bit of history of why we're doing this segment after the intro, but this is called Xtreads. Xtreme reads is Xtreads. Mr. X with the Xtreme Channel here. As I said in the opening, we're doing a brand new segment called Xtreads for Statues. What does this mean? Well, let me give you a little bit of history first. Growing up, I was big into comics. I bought the single cover issues, I bought the ones that had cool looking covers, and particularly of my favorite characters such as Wolverine, Hulk, Surfer, and quite a few more. Then over the years, the last 20, 30 years, it went to the wayside. Well, I started collecting a while back statues because I love the characters and I love the art. And recently, I was getting a statue that I was unfamiliar with the story. I knew the character, which I'm not giving the spoiler yet. So I decided, you know what? I want to find out what's going on here. So I picked up the story, the hardcover, and I loved it. I fell in love. And it gave me an appreciation for the statue, which I yet to have in hand, by the way. It actually should ship in the next week or two. So that was kind of the plunge into the rabbit hole. So I started buying omnibuses and hardcovers, and I'm only buying them as it relates to statues. So what does that mean? That means if I have a statue and I want to know more about it, the specific comic that it came from, I'm buying the comic. And that's what this segment's going to be about. So if you are a statue lover, but you're not huge into the comics like I haven't been, this is the perfect video for you. If you are big into both comics and the statues, again, it's a perfect video for you. If you are just into comics, but you're wondering about what kind of statues may come from this comic, again, perfect video. If you don't like comics or statues, this is a horrible video for you to watch, so stop. So we're going to jump right in, and when we do, we're going to have structure, and everything's going to be very formatted because that's how I roll, and that's how I like it personally. Each time we talk about a book, we're going to cover three things. First thing we're going to cover is the book itself and the storyline. So there will be spoilers. If you do not want to know about the spoilers, then go ahead and fast forward through that part till you see the little print at the bottom. Second thing we're going to focus on is the imagery and the art from that book. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about why that's so important when we get into that. And the last section of each story we're going to talk about is what statue it pertains to and the relation of that. So with that, let's jump right in. And our first one we're going to cover, actually, is the hardcover Old Man Logan. Now, if you're seriously into comic books and kind of a die-hard guy, this is really not about that. I'm not going to go over, this is, a Mark Miller and Steve McNiven, who I don't even know who that is. So I'm not going to go into that stuff, but I'm going to go into the overall basic storyline. I'm going to go over what I enjoyed about it. But Old Man Logan is Wolverine. It's all about Wolverine, and it's the future. So Wolverine, first of all, is, I don't even know how old he is, but he's quite a bit older. He has a family, and the United States is completely different. All of the heroes, from the Avengers to the X-Men to Spider-Man, are long and buried. They're gone. They're dead. And a bunch of evil people actually rule the United States. It's actually broken into territories of who rules what. Check this out right here. You have Hulkland, which is actually where Wolverine lives, Logan lives, and we're going to talk about that. Kingpin, Doom's Lair, and the President's Quarters, who actually is Red Skull. And as you see, there's kind of a map here on this page. This is actually a route that Logan takes through his journey. So, a little bit of background. He's living on a farm, and the Hulk land, the Incredible Hulk has had a whole bunch of offspring with She-Hulk, and they're inbred bastards, literally and figuratively. And they're kind of these tyrant landlords that beat people up if they don't pay them taxes. Kind of like you would think almost Robin Hood, but nastier. And we'll talk about the imagery later, but they really make the Hulks look like inbred trailer park trash. If you live in a trailer park, I apologize. But yeah, it's crazy. And he needs some money, and rent is due in a few days. Otherwise, they'll come back and they'll kill his family. Now let's back up a little bit more. This is Logan. Why would he be afraid of them? He can take anyone on. Well, Wolverine has taken a vow of nonviolence. The reason for that is he had some mysterious incident happen in his past that they don't reveal until later in the book. So we're going to get to that. So Logan's pal Hawkeye, who now ironically is blind, comes by and says, I have a job we can do together. We need to get to New Babylon. We need to get to the East Coast, and we're carrying something. I'm not going to tell you what it is. And Logan assumes it's drugs, and he's going to make a lot of money, and he'll be able to pay off the Hulk so they don't kill him and his family. So they start an adventure, and the entire book is an adventure of what the different things they run into, and it gives you stories about fallen heroes. And they run into Thor's hammer. They run into, it's just a plethora of characters, from some evil mole men underneath the who live underneath the ground, people who are riding something similar to Ghost Rider's bike, Ultron, who is kind of inferior at this point. You find out that Hawkeye actually had a child with Spider-Man's daughter. You run into Venomsaurus, which we're going to talk about later. You find the dead body of Ant-Man, and he's gigantic. They run into Emma Frost. So I'm not going to give away all the spoilers. However, this is a big one, so if you don't want to hear this, fast forward. But Logan and Hawkeye bond throughout their whole trip, and Logan finally reveals why he is not into violence anymore. Well, apparently back in the day when this whole revolution started and the villains attacked the superheroes, they attacked the X-Mansion, and Wolverine ends up killing, Deathstrike and Sabretooth and Scorpion and Omega Red. And then after he's, killed everybody, Mysterio appears, and it was all an illusion. He had made Wolverine think that all the X-Men were those enemies. So Wolverine actually destroyed all of the X-Men. And obviously he didn't know that. So that's why he won't go to violence anymore. And it's a very bloody book, which we're going to see in some of the imagery. But eventually they do make it to New Babylon, which is where Red Skull is. And of course Wolverine eventually roids out and becomes Wolverine again. And he actually takes down Red Skull with Captain America's shield. Red Skull has this huge trophy wall of all the heroes' weapons and shields. And he also gets an Iron Man suit, which is kind of cool. So a lot of crossover. It touches on so many different superheroes. Now, Wolverine eventually makes it back home. And again, I'm not revealing all the story, but unfortunately he's too late. The Hulk gang went out and they took out his children and his wife. So he decides to go and destroy the entire Hulk gang. And he ends up doing it, and he ends up fighting the Hulk, which it doesn't look like the Hulk anymore. And the Hulk destroys Wolverine and eats him. Well, as you know, Wolverine's always going to heal. So Wolverine forms himself back inside the Hulk's belly and breaks out from the inside, which is where the statue is that we're going to talk about in a second. So kind of a unique storyline. I think what I loved about it, it was a different take on so many different characters. And it was classic Logan, very badass. He was very somber the entire time, so they still managed to maintain the true Wolverine, true Logan. And it's a great read. I highly, highly recommend it. But what really got me was the imagery and the art. And this is what's really exciting me. When I was young, I remember looking at cool pictures, but now that I'm kind of an adult, I'll spend a minute or two looking at each page, despite the fact it has 2 words on it. And some of this imagery is just fantastic. So I want to show some of these pictures right here. And I'm not going to show too much, but just some really, really cool stuff. So right here is the inbred Hulks I was talking to you about. The banners. As you can see, just really, really cool take on them. Here's some of their adventures right here. You see Hawkeye trying to rescue his daughter, and Logan kind of sitting in the vehicle. Like I said, he doesn't condone fighting. Lots of blood in this. Here you see Wolverine taking out his enemies, or allegedly. And again, this is where he's actually killing the X-Men, and he has no idea. Some really cool images here. Here's Venomsaurus, which is actually a statue we're going to talk about. And then here's his final fight with Red Skull, and Red Skull's actually wearing Captain America's mask. And then finally, here's some of his final fight with the Hulk. And then here is where he actually makes his way out of the Hulk. So just crazy, crazy imagery to go with an awesome storyline. I really loved it. And this is where it ties into some statues. So first, two statues particularly have the story, and there may be more. But the two that I'm particularly interested in, one is Sideshow's Venomsaurus. If you've never seen this before, it is actually from this book. I've wanted this for a long, long time, but I really don't have a place that I want to display it at. Pretty cool piece. And it's kind of neat to know that this is where it comes from. And then the other one is the one that I just ordered and the reason I bought the book, but I actually have Old Man Logan ripping out a Hulk. Here's some pictures, production pictures of it. I'll be reviewing this soon. The review may have dropped even before this video, I'm not really sure. But kind of cool. And I'm talking about this one more because this is the one that really got me excited and back into it. So if you're interested, I highly recommend you checking this out. You can get this from In Stock Trades. You can get it from Amazon. Really, really cool piece. Old Man Logan hardcover. Let's go to our second one, and that is Batman Noel. And the big one about this is a Bermejo book. I really like Bermejo, and I was actually introduced to Bermejo through statues. He's doing the new Batman and Joker Dam pieces, as you see right here. Both of which I think are amazing and I have on order. And I'm actually reading Batman Damned right now. But I recently picked up the Batman Noel statue, and I have reviewed it. Here's a picture of that guy. And all I knew about him was he came from a story that was similar to a Charles Dickens story about Christmas. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Scrooge. If you don't know what I'm talking about still, then go check it out. But it's essentially a play on with Batman in the Charles Dickens classic story, A Christmas Carol. So jumping right in, it's an older Batman. He's pretty roughed up. He's pretty unhappy. He's actually very sick in the entire book. And he's out there on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and he finds out that Bob Ratchet is doing some illegal stuff for his boss. And I'm a little unclear. I need it again because he kept saying his boss was Scrooge. And Scrooge actually is Bruce Wayne. So it was very unclear what was going on there, but apparently he was delivering a package for the Joker. So the Batman is a very ruthless Batman, very heartless Batman. He decides to use Bob as bait, and this is kind of what starts the whole Christmas Carol, ghosts, that kind of stuff. I almost forgot what I was going to say there. But his first visitor is actually Robin, and Robin is actually dead. So Robin is not one of the three visitors. He's kind of the one that sets him up, telling him what's going to go on for the rest of the story. And one of the things I really like is I like the narrator in this story. I don't know who the narrator is, but it gives an awesome perspective. So Batman's back at the Batcave, being alone, very sick. Alfred's telling him to stop, and the imagery that we're going to talk about is just fabulous in this book. And Robin visits him as he's, thinking about how he let Robin die. And Batman's just set on, getting the Joker as usual. So Batman's first guest, the one of the past, actually is Catwoman. Catwoman physically is there. At least we think she is in the book. There's no indications that she's not. And she brings up kind of all their past adventures together, especially the ones including Robin, and ties into a lot of emotional aspects of his past. And then after she leaves, Superman shows up, or so we think it's Superman. Again, it seems like Catwoman really was there, but we're not very sure if Superman was. And Superman kind of shows him some stuff in the city, particularly with Bob and his son, of what's going on in the present. He's the ghost of Christmas present, so to say. And he gives him kind of a, you need to stop being this old, asshole and start, doing what you're supposed to be doing. Be true, like I am. So eventually he leaves him. I'm probably saying so a lot. Again, I apologize. This is my first time doing this, but we'll get better. And his car blows up, and he's dragged away by none other than the Joker. And there's almost no words to this, but this is kind of the ghost of Christmas future. And essentially he learns that that people only remember the heroes. They don't remember the vigilantes. And he's not going to be remembered, and he goes through some scenes in court years from now where they don't remember him. Then of course he sees him in his grave. Here lies a bat. He died boring, predictable, and nobody loved him. Very, very cool. And then, long story short, there's a happy ending at the end where Batman saves Bob from Joker, and he kind of realizes he needs to change his ways. So I found the story kind of mediocre. I was expecting a little bit more, but I think the imagery really made up for it in this book. I loved this, and part of the reason I loved it is, again, I think I'm just a fan of Bermejo art, but a lot of it was very Christmassy, very Gotham with snow, very Dark Knight, very Thomas Kincaid paintings almost is kind of what I think of. I have a bunch of those. And let's just check out some of these images here. So here's some of him in the city. Just really, really cool photos. Here's some of him just being a badass. In some of these you're going to see, oh, that's what the statue, yeah, that makes sense. Then here's some of the action scenes, whether they're memories from the past or pictures of him in the Batcave. And then here's just some random crazy ones. So much going on here. Very big fan of it. I love how the Joker's drawn in here. Reminds me quite a bit of the Batman Damned Joker that's coming out by Prime 1. And again, this gave me a huge love and appreciation for the statue that I currently own. It's hard to explain, which is why I'm fumbling over my words so much doing this. It's hard to explain how cool it is that you have a statue and you love it and you appreciate it, and then you know the storyline behind it. So you appreciate it even more. So highly recommend this one, mostly for the imagery. Again, you can get it at in-stock trades, or you can get it at Amazon or eBay or wherever, but very cool piece. Both of these ran about, I think, 20-30 bucks, somewhere in that range. So those are the two for this month. For this next month, hopefully I can get done. I'm working on Venom 1, Volume 1 Omnibus, and then I'm working on Batman Damned. I'm actually halfway through that, and it's crazy as beep. It's really, I don't know why I said beep, because they flagged my last video because I dropped a lot of F-bombs. Maybe that's why. But guys, I appreciate you sticking through this with me. I know it was clunky. It's my first time. I'm a virgin talking about comic books, but I will get better. If you are not a subscriber, please hit subscribe if you want to see a lot of statues and other related content to this. Let me know if you've read either of these, what your thoughts on them are, or if you are reading something cool right now. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Take care.